Moving ahead with the next panel discussion, cybersecurity in the age of AI, machine learning and emerging technologies, IoT, 5G, blockchain and more, risk, opportunity and ethical considerations. Let me introduce our panelist. Harshad Mengle, Global CISO, Tata Chemicals. Mukesh Jain, Chief Technology Officer, Capgemini. Abhishek Jha, CISO, Citi Global Markets, India. I would like to welcome our moderator, Mr. Prianshu Khandwala, CISO, Head Information Security, Sun Pharma. I would request Mr. Prianshu to be on the stage and introduce our panelist.
For giving us an opportunity to present our thoughts. Honestly, the buzzwords that you have mentioned in terms of AI, machine learning, emerging technologies, IoT, 5G, blockchain and more, I think each one is a 5-day session, if I have to put it that way. But I think we'll try to do justice. I have esteemed panelists with me out here, Harshad. Harshad is from Tata Chemicals, a very, very seasoned CISO and a practitioner, right? Having more than 20 years of experience, having worked with the Tata Group, he's looked at OT, he's looked at IoT, he's looked, you name it, and he has done it as a practitioner, An amazing gentleman, a very close friend of mine, and we do share a lot of thoughts with each other. Next, we have Mukesh Jain from the ITS industry, from Capgemini. I think if you look at his profile, he's constantly on the run, right? With every buzzword that we see here, he would have added some contribution. He has helped so many customers and clients, and with 27 years of experience, including working with Microsoft when Outlook was being developed, right? And I think he had taken up a use case of ensuring and securing some senior gentleman's mailbox at Microsoft, right? Because he was getting impacted by some few million phishing emails in a month, right? So that's how it is. And again, we have Abhishek. Abhishek, I think banking is always on fire, right? I always ask the gentleman, he's either traveling or he's on a conference call. I don't know, when does he sleep, because banking is always a targeted industry. And I see this gentleman constantly working hard to put, and so that all of us in this country have a good night's sleep, right? So on that topic, I once again like to thank my panelists, and for taking out this time and spending this time out here. Honestly, all of us were so busy, we have not prepared. I think most of the questions are going to be impromptu, and we will try to address this, So on that note, we'll start this panel discussion, right? So Harshad, let's go in the order so that it happens. Harshad, just tell me one thing. As the requirement from the corporates, as the requirement from the industry is that people want digitization, people want data, what are the real challenges that you face when, let's say, a business team member comes to you and asks, I would want to provision this particular system, and there is an IoT device which is there. I'm going to get the data on my mobile phone, and for them it's so easy, I'm implementing a digital solution. But then how do you break that entire problem before you give a go-ahead in implementing the solution? What are the risks that you foresee, and how do you go about with the process, give us some real-life practical examples and the challenges that you had, And probably you could talk about some of the instances, where with the business teams, you did not agree, and then he said, nahi, mere ko to chahiye, come what may, whatever happens. So let's hear from you, Harshad.
Yeah, thank you, Prianshu, and thank you, Gain Skills, for inviting me here. I'll be sharing my, personal views on the question which is basically asked. It's a multi-layered question, I would say. There are multiple questions in this, right? So I'll address one of, which is very common, where actually business teams comes to you. I'll take examples so that we can all correlate. So typically we are in manufacturing, right? We are not into IT. So our job is to produce soda ash. we are not technology, system integrators. So I'll just share my views on that. So business teams comes quite often and ask for a web WhatsApp, right? I mean, most of us might have seen this case, right? Or maybe a PDF, converter, right? Which is online, where you need to upload file, get converted, and they will have a number of reasons to, get this done through you, right? Now, this is a typical challenge which we come across, right? Unless you have a strong policy and conviction that why this is not required, it will be extremely difficult for you to justify. Being a CISO, and you are also responsible to enable business, right? So at the same time, you also have to ensure that genuine requests are typically addressed properly in a proper justified ways. So maybe web WhatsApp, right? Some of the sales and marketing will always ask for web WhatsApp, and they will say that we have so many things to do, we have promotions to do, we get a lot of responses on web, WhatsApp. There will be attachment, and we have to respond back to them. So typically how we handle these situations, I was in retail earlier, I was in manufacturing. So I always say that, yes, we will give you web WhatsApp. Absolutely no problem, we'll give you web WhatsApp, but download and upload is disabled. Now this policy is not applicable for all of them, right? It's only for certain users or certain departments which need this access, right? Not all employees do not need web WhatsApp. In certain cases, you might need access to Gmail, right? In certain cases, I have seen that people are asking for Gmail access. Can we provide a Gmail access to them? Unless you have controls in place, you will say that no, download, upload is not possible, but you can view Gmail. But what if you don't have a control where actually you get a lot of malicious link, but we don't have a protection, for example, browser isolation, or maybe a sandbox kind of a solution. If you are getting those mails, and if you don't have a proper control, so ideally we should say that no, Gmail is also not allowed, right? So this is how actually we typically address, based on the business needs, based on the business cases, we typically allow or deny certain access. Now, in today's CISOs, since we are also talking about AI, now user behavior is the most critical piece here, and we also have to constantly see what sort of a user is, what sort of a data is getting accessed, and how we are actually preventing that access. Now, there will be adaptive access control mechanisms, which actually most of the tools already have. Now, how much appetite you have to buy those technologies is also important. But adaptive access control is a way forward, in my opinion, to handle these kind of use cases. That's all from my side.
Correct. Thank you so much, Harshad. I know it is a constant tussle because business feels security is in internet, and I think you're doing a brilliant job in explaining them the actual risk that happens with some of these digital channels. And we all know that data once gone on the web always stays there. There's no way to delete it, right? So I think you're doing a brilliant job. Let's come to you, Mukesh. Mukesh, you have been on both sides of the stories, right? You have been on the user side, and now you are on the consulting side of things, right? Obviously, as a user, you would have also taken up consulting services, and when you are on the consulting side, you're using the same, you're interacting with the same set of users, right? Today, every organization wants to be digitally ready, right? And I'm sure you get in a lot of requests saying that, is AI safe? How can I, use AI for my environment? Without even knowing what are the final use cases. So, can you explain us, how should organizations, address the use of AI and some of the digital technologies that we have, and how should they approach it? If you can give some kind of a framework, if you can give some kind of a thought process on how they should go about looking at such challenges.
Sure. So thank you for the opportunity. So one of the things which I found, especially when I was building solution and all, when I was doing at Microsoft, it was comparatively easy, right? Build a solution, AI solution, hey, this is the AI solution, give some explanation, and I'm done. And blindly, I don't even know who is using it. 300, 400 million users are using it. Same thing happened with Reliance Jio when I was working there. I don't even know who is working on it. At some point, I realized, no, I need to be more interacting with the clients. And that's where my first interaction happened when I was working for VFS Global, doing AI-based visa processing. Okay, when I started talking to client and say, oh, AI, no. Immediately, several countries where I was going and trying to convince them, they immediately said no. Now it's interesting. It's somebody's telling no, somebody's challenging. So that's where you can actually work. That's where you can actually get more satisfaction. So then then I realized I was making big mistake. I was, I've never done sales by the way, but I was actually selling solution. That was wrong. I decided to take 2 steps backward and say, you know what? I'm going to train everybody on what is AI. Again, another mistake. I cannot train people on AI. I have to start training people on data. Data literacy. How the data comes in. Okay? Then behavioral analytics. Then go to the machine learning part. And then you go to AI. And I started doing that several workshops and I could see that yes, people now understand AI. They respect AI. Okay, AI is not going to solve all the problems in the world. AI is not going to replace jobs as well. But AI is a part where people have fear even today. Why? Because people think AI is going to take decisions. And that's what my strong belief is, that I when you draw a line. Okay, I was doing a lot of research with Dr. D.B. Phatak from IIT Bombay, and we used to always talk about that we should first promote the line. I promote the line a lot. That AI is there as an assistant. AI is my assistant. AI is not going to dictate what I should do. It will recommend 80% probability that this person will not come back and you issue the visa. The visa officer should be able to take a decision on that. So that is where my first start of how do I promote AI. After joining, and that was the reason I joined Capgemini, I'd be able to have much broader canvas. I've done more than 100 workshops for clients and everything, and that's exactly what I'm teaching, right? Literacy, understanding. Now the other part of AI, right now I'm getting last 2 years a question, with, especially after Jain AI. By the way, it's just 2 years Jain AI, I would say, launched 30th of November it was, right? So 2 years now. So a lot of people are like, it's going to take job, and I'm getting a lot of more questions. My answer is, of course it will take your job if you don't adopt AI. Right? Of course, but see, the same argument was there 30 years back when one of the politicians in India mentioned, computers ko nahi lana hai, computers aa gaye to job chale aayenge. And we know what happened. The biggest job creator now, that is the computers, right? IT part. So I think we have to embrace that part, but still draw the line, that's one part. And last part, the session I used to conduct, which I used to call data literacy. And people used to get offended. Literacy? You my Anguta chap? Yes, you are Anguta chap. But once you understand the power of data and everything, AI becomes more important. And last but not the least, the most insecure part right now is AI models. People just create a model, they don't package it, and there's a biggest vulnerability you can get into access to data through AI model. So that's why I call it AI in cyber, cyber in AI. And that's where the cyber in AI part is what I'm promoting here in internally in company as well. And externally as well, I do a lot of workshops, tell people that you need to secure your AI model also, because that will be the biggest vulnerability. You will not even realize that you have exposed something through your AI model because you're just exposing the model. No, you're not exposing the model. You're exposing the internal data on which the model was trained. So that is the biggest fear, I would say, still there. But once people are aware, they'll ask those questions. Okay, is this secure enough? Is it privacy enable enough? And all. And that's how it will be prevented.
Thank you, Mukesh. I think that was really enlightening. We always thought AI was all about an algorithm, but it's all about the underlying data and the access rights around it. First thing I'm going to call you to my organization, and I would want you to brief my C-suite on how AI should be used. What are the guardrails that one should put across before we start adoption of AI? Thank you so much.
Definitely, I'll give you my UPI address.
Thank you so much. Okay, Abhishek, you have seen, I think you have seen the Air Force side. You have been with Air Force for almost 19 years. You have been in offensive security. And now we have moved to the corporate side, right? The threats were then, the threats are now, and threats are now increasing. What is the mindset that one should build up? Or what is the thought process, or what are your learnings when you looked at Air Force vis-a-vis corporates? Because Air Force will, or when it comes to defense forces, you will have set rules, set guidelines, right? But when you come to corporates, people want flexibility, people want growth, because then you can be a hurdler. When it comes to using some of these new age technologies or next gen technologies, what are your thoughts around it, and how should corporates try to adopt these technologies in a way that they are safe? At the end of the day, if the corporates are safe, the nation is also safe. That's what I believe. Over to you, sir.
Let me tell you, before I start that I used to be a bad man for which you guys are getting paid, right? So when I switched to corporates, I was surprised, like, okay, security is tarah se bhi chal sakta hai, because I was on the other side, attacking people rather than defending. Then I switched my sides to corporate, and I saw the amount of effort people put in to safeguard a single attack, right? I'll take an example what Sir explained about DPDP attack, DPDP Act. Why do you think since the DPDP is launched, no one has asked for a ransomware? Why do you think? Because attackers already have that data with them. The moment this act is becoming a regulation, I'll post this data to you and ask you for a ransom. Right? I'm waiting for that opportunity. So attackers are milestone ahead, right? They have kept the data safe, right? They are copying your data, and then they are just waiting for the right opportunity.
Okay.
Next, if we go, you spoke about ransomware, right? And Mukesh, you spoke about Outlook identifying those emails. So let me tell you, if you are not viewing my emails continuously, but you are available on LinkedIn, I know your profile. You said you were not able to profile me on ChatGPT. That's because I am not available. My digital identity is secured. So that's how an attacker will work. If you know him, then he's gone, right? But while every security practitioner in this hall is widely available on LinkedIn, publicizing himself for a better opportunity, simultaneously he's making the attacker aware the capacity he is in the organization. So let's say I'm taking all three examples together. I'll do one thing. I'll understand that, okay, my email I'm shooting up, Mukesh is not opening that email, right? And you have given a good preventive measure on ransomware. You have implemented a good act, right? I'll use AI. Find those individuals who are a best match on all these three, who have a very good spending habit. Maybe his son is going to America and hustling for a visa, right? I'll find this person and give him a targeted attack. And I'll challenge you, we'll open that email even in 12 o'clock in the night and download that attachment to see whether the visa was approved or not. And the moment you do it, you put best of the EDR, best of the antivirus, you're gone.
God bless you. Yeah.
Right? And that is the challenge with banking sector now. Because even before people talk about privacy, finance was an evergreen chapter. And once you have access to people's personal data, you can access their finances as well. Everyone is running for finance. Attacker is working for money. The bank is working for money. The industry is working for money. And that is how the economy is running. And at the center point is the privacy. If I'm able to get hold of the data, I'll be able to hit the privacy button on financial sector.
On the day when DPDP is announced, huh?
No, that is only the privacy. I mean saying, people here, we talked about EDR, we talked about ransomware, we talked about ACT.
Right.
How many people in the audience can tell me that, okay, I'm sitting here and some ransomware, even if hits my mobile, it will have a major impact on me. I'll throw that bloody mobile down. I'll purchase a $10,000 mobile again. That is the impact I would see. But what happens if your photos are posted nude on Facebook, right? If your accounts are compromised, money taken away, you go to insurance company to claim your health insurance, and you're surprised that your insurance has already been claimed, and you're taken for a toss. So those are the impact of privacy on financial sector. But how do you do that? See, today banking has more than 60% of the country covered. And when I say 60% of the country, I'm not talking about the Jan Dhan Yojana. I'm talking about people who are actually doing the transactions. So Google is doing their own profiling for a target-based campaigning and all those things. But now what attacker is doing is they're making profile of the people, right? Maybe if I send an email to you asking 5 lakh rupees, right? Because of some genuine reason, you may immediately deny it. But what happens if I send that same email to Mukesh Ambani? He's in capacity to pay that 5 lakh rupees. So he'll not waste his time and pay that 5 lakh rupees. And that is how I will design my campaign through this AI.
Which is a very, very targeted campaign.
Yes.
You will identify people who would pick up
And I am doing that profiling since your childhood. I know which school you went, which hospital you were born, everything I know. You cannot deny my campaign. That will be such a hit.
Absolutely. And I think I recently read a survey, a lot of these adversaries or hacksters are now targeting small and medium enterprises. One of the reasons why, because they know that they may not have the best of IT staffs. The promoters, these are more of promoter-driven companies, and they don't have the patience to wait and decrypt the data, go and report something, and hence they have a better capacity to pay. Exactly now taking your point, because if they are in a growing phase, they don't want their supply chains to disrupt, right? So now what I believe is a lot of small and medium enterprises are being targeted, and organizations to the tune of 1,000 crores, 150 crores, 1,500 crores, smaller organizations are being targeted. And I think taking to your point, these are the new target audiences. And as I say, it is always said that in a jungle, if a tiger is running behind you and you don't want to be the big victim, you have to be faster than the slowest guy running, correct? Same is with cyber, I believe. The adversaries will not waste a lot of time trying to target you if you are able to give a strong defense. If you are able to give the defense, they will move to the next one, because for them, the entire world is their customer, right? Sitting in one part of the world, they can impact the other part of the world, right? Thanks to the internet and digitization that we have. But that's how it is. Yes, Abhishek.
I'll just add to this, right? You are with Capgemini, right? You are giving solutions to hundreds of people, right? What happens, and you are complied by some of the other regulations, you are dying for compliance, he comes, helps you, gives you a solution, fantastic. Now, I get hold of his data, right, because you have put in all those EDRs, everything, you have hundreds of guards. I got hold of his data, understand the solution you have implemented, and then do a target.
Absolutely.
Right? That's how it's easy. Because none of the consulting firms are under RBI regulation or IRDA regulation or UIDI regulation, because they are for solutioning. They are supposed to suggest you. Right. What happens if I weaponize that?
Correct. Absolutely. But I think when corporates engage with consulting partners, they do put in a lot of these requirements across, saying that we are under this regulation, and God forbid if there's a data breach, you need to report us in so much of time, and there could be a contingent liability passed on also, But again, it depends from contract to contract, depending on the kind of engagement. Okay, coming back to Mukesh, Mukesh, you have been looking at some of these technologies, and there is a big buzzword or big debate on ethical use of AI, Can you throw some light on ethical use of AI? What does it mean for us as a country? What does it mean us as a corporate entity? And what does it mean us as a individual company?
Sure. So definitely ethical have multiple parameters and all. And while it started as the word as ethical AI for quite some time, now it has migrated to a word called responsible AI. Okay, and which also include, and I don't know if you have noticed this, when we did software automation, okay, that time we were consuming 10 times more power than normally manually if you have done some work. As we went to AI, that was 5 times more than automation. And with generative AI, it is 7 times more than the automation. 7 times more than AI. So right now we are already having a bigger carbon footprint, which is estimated to be more than 2% right now. Now think about it. If you look at the very simple element here, if I give you an Excel file with 10,000 rows, and I ask you to do an average, you will put an average function. Very simple, basic part, right? Put an average function there and you're done. You make one minor change in one data, it will go to recalculate average. Why? Instead, if you had done sum and the count, and when I ask you to change and you do manual change over there or write a small one, you're actually doing just an addition and a division, which is a lot more cost effective than doing average of 10,000 records. So that's where I'm going back to the basics, saying that, you know what, you need to be responsible AI, okay? And fun part is sustainability, that how can you have lesser carbon footprint with AI? The one part of it. So less GPU usage, of course. And media may not like this part, but anyway. So that's the first part. Second part, like bias. Huge bias. Okay? Believe it or not, bias is there everywhere. And that's where some governance model need to be placed whenever things go out, right? How are you monitoring there's a bias or not? For anything, positive or negative bias, both of them are wrong. There's a law already in Singapore. I hope in India the law will come soon. There's a deliberation already started on AI. The bias part of it. Third, drift. Right? You're too dependent on AI. You're not even using your common sense. I know it's not very common, but still, okay? And now when you're not using those parts, you're too dependent, and the AI has developed a drift. And then you start believing that AI is right, and you start making decisions wherein the whole thing have drifted to a certain dimension that is no longer closer to the reality. Right? So a lot of those parts are there. But the biggest part of ethical AI is, are we using the data for the right purpose? Right? I'll give you an incident, a few years old incident, and you can see how it was. It's available on I will not name those provider. So there was a fight between her and at a house, husband and wife. Normal, you understand that part. The wife was very furious. She sent an email message to her friend saying that I'm furious with this fight, and I'm planning to take a divorce. Okay. Next day she gets a call from a lawyer. Okay, ma'am, I believe you're planning to take a divorce. I will give you 20% discount. It was a good deal, 20% discount, right? But she said, what fight, what divorce? She forgotten. It was yesterday, right? Long time back. And the person, she said, no, but how did you get it? I got it from this provider. She filed a suit and everything. The case went into court. It is available on the internet, by the way. And the person, the email provider came and argued saying that, don't worry. You have signed the agreement that we own all your data. It means it's okay. You have given consent. The court says nothing doing. You have crossed the line, right? That's what it is. I think people should not cross the line. You are sharing a lot of data because you are using an email provider which is free, or you are doing something. Even if it's not free, you are paying service, but still the data is being sold. Okay, 12th of October was my insurance renewal date. From 13th of September, I'm getting everyday calls. How did these people got my phone number? Sir, you own this BMW. This is the thing. This is the insurance premium. I'll give you the best rate. Continuous calling, right? That's a clear violation of my privacy, clear violation of my data. Somebody have sold it, right? So I think this is the place where I think you say, I call it responsible AI, that even if it's allowed, we should not allow. As a company, you say, nope, you got the data from incorrect sources. I'm not going to entertain you. I think that would be the right way to do it. The law would help out, but also as a corporate, we should be responsible for those. In all my job earlier also at Microsoft or other places, at Jio as well, sometimes I used to say, every document, every recommendation I used to make, I said, we should respect the respective law of that country when we're doing this, and we should never cross the line. I would say that is what I would call, in summary, what ethical AI is. We should be responsible. It should not be bad, like the pictures getting leaked and everything. We are downloading so many applications. I just hope that it was passed in DPDP, but they didn't agree to my recommendation. We download any application on mobile phone asking access to your SMS. Why? Access to your photographs. Come on, that's for private. And we have to do it because otherwise the application won't work. And my argument to Niti Aayog at that time was, why can't we just say no? Each of the applications, you are not allowed to take SMS and pictures at all, right? And that's what I think the gap is right now. Still long way to go to curb that from happening.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mukesh, for throwing that light on how AI can be a disruptor, but at the same point of time, cause a lot of security risk, in the overall environment. And anyone trying to adopt Jain AI or AI, running a solution, trying to improvise the outcomes, have to be careful about hallucination, the drift, and all of it, because you may want to believe that the outcome coming off the AI model is correct, but it may not be always the case, correct? So there has to be a well-through thought process. The models have to be trained well. I think AI is just one tool or one framework that will help you optimize your outcomes and give you faster results. Okay, let me come back to Harshad. Harshad, Mukesh and Abhishek spoke about how the attackers are using cyber AI and a lot of these things, right? Now, you hold a fort when you're running a manufacturing company. You're running the cyber operations for a manufacturing company. with the kind of threats that we spoke about and the ethical use of AI, what's your call on the skill set piece? How are you managing the skill set? How do you keep your people motivated? Especially, I think some of us work in manufacturing sector. I know what pain it takes because there is one company which is going much faster than you, in terms of the adoption of technologies, in adoption of the AI and the next gen technologies, and there is one company which is catching up, right? And manufacturing has always been a catch-up, is always in a catch-up game, right? Because they never thought that this was all important at that point of time. For them, production was important, or outcome, or the revenues, the top lines were more important, So, how are you handling the challenge of skill set management, training the people, keeping the people motivated, right? And obviously, cyber risk is just not a 9 to 6 job. It's a 24/7 job, right? How are you handling it? Can you throw some light on it?
Yeah, I think you answered partially that question. We are in manufacturing, we are not into IT. So what I will do is basically outsource. That's the simplest question, right? And how do you think that, you can actually, see, even if you outsource, like you need to have a proper governance in place, right? And you can't outsource many things, right? Certain things has to be in-house, right? So the way I will address these questions, there are two ways to look at it. First is basically look at the fresh graduates, hire them, train them, take them to a level, allow them to do some experiment, allow them to learn through experiment. That's one way to look at it. Second is, when you are outsourcing a function, you have to have a strong governance and compliance. And that is something which we need to have KPI. So whether they are, when you outsource any function, right, you always measure through KPI. So what is a performance indicator? How they are actually performing in overall, right? So that's something which typically we do. Skill set is always a problem, and it is going to be. With AI, my thought process is like it is going to reduce, because the dependency on people will eventually reduce, because AI will, of course, it has to be trained. There's always a issue with AI. One is basically cyber, second is privacy, and third is trust, right? These are the major challenges with the AI. But after AI coming in, there will be less of a dependencies on analyst. The alert fatigue, which we typically discuss in the SOC, right, in operations, that will definitely get reduced with AI. Of course, with AI, there are also other side of it, like accuracy, trust, that always will be there, which probably we need to handle. But when it comes to skill set management, in my opinion, best way is basically when you outsource, manage the KPI. If you are doing it in-house, train the freshers as far as possible, train them on multiple technologies and controls, and make use of their expertise and energy, because youngsters will have a lot of energies to do. So I think automation and energy is something which they will bring definitely in the organization. That's how I think I treat this.
Thank you so much, Harshad. I think that's an input to a lot of our manufacturing folks, where keeping the Gen Z motivated and retaining talent and giving them a career path, is always a challenge. But I think these insights were really helpful, and we should all try to practice some of it. Okay, now I want to quickly summarize what we spoke, correct? I think in this entire discussion, now there were two key points. These technologies are going to come in, right? We like it or we don't like it, because the business needs it, the customer needs it, we need to improve the user experience. But at the same point of time, it's going to come with a lot of challenges. AI, if not used well with proper frameworks in place, understanding the underlying data in place, understanding the access management in place, can always backfire. It can lead to a bigger security issue. AI models can hallucinate and can always drift from the purpose that they have given, so there have to be guardrails around it, right? Skill set gap is going to continue as we speak, because large companies, the ITES, are also struggling to retain people, because you see, today if you see an average tenure of a professional in this space is not more than 1.5 year, 2 years at max, and you see there's a constant churn because everyone is in the catch-up game, right? And everyone wants to move faster. So just last one comment from each one of you. Let's start with Abhishek. Yeah. So Abhishek, looking at the background of working with the armed forces, now with the corporates, what are the 3 takeaways that you have for the audience out here on how do we manage risk around some of these emerging technologies? How it can be a more sustained model rather than just a one-way communication, or how it can sustain for a longer time, and organizations still continue to work the way they are, even though people come in and people go out.
Firstly, I would say mature your organization with policies, right? Don't be a people-dependent organization, be a process-dependent organization. Even if you are going to washroom, there should be a board, wash your hands here, right? People should not be confused at any given point of time what I need to do. Invest in talent, right? If there's a new joiner into an organization, invest time and money to make him a leader, make him aware what is happening, rather than just giving him a task scheduled for the end of the day and asking him a report, right? Develop that habit. And then the organizational discipline. I believe if you are touching all these 3 pillars, you are good on governance, you are good on protection, and you have a robust infrastructure to defend yourself.
Brilliant. Thank you so very much. Mukesh, let's go with you. See, you have been, helping the government of India on multiple matters around AI and privacy, right? What are your key takeaways for this audience out here? Whenever some of these government regulations come in, how should one holistically look at adopting some of these technologies, but also ensuring that they are compliant to what the regulation says? I know it's a broad-ended question, and also a couple of recommendations to the government of India based on the experience, because you have been dealing with multiple customers across different verticals.
So I was just doing a check on number of regulations. I was creating a holistic view, and then I put the project on hold because the budget requirement was very high. We found 784 different regulations across the globe, which we have to put all of them in place to create a comprehensive database.
Interesting.
Okay? So that will be comprehensive. But then what will happen is, if you're doing a project for a particular country, okay, we follow those rules. If that company have particular 2 or 3 places, maybe we just have to comply with all of those. And that's why the comprehensive part, at some point it will happen. That will be a good startup idea, but if somebody want to do that part. So bringing that is one part, right? But making people understand what the law is and then compliant, right? Of course, there are lots of training and all. I've been through myself for the GDPR training and everything. And I can tell you it's a very, 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 very basic, right? This training, right? But I would say we can do a lot more better than that, right? So I would say the first element would be training, right? Helping our leaders to understand what the respective laws are, wherever you are working in a particular country. Capgemini works in 180 countries. Almost impossible for us to comply with all of them, right? For everything. But yes, we'll comply with whatever we are doing for that country or the country where they work with. Second part would be doing a regular hackathons. Right? So we have this laws, policies and all, and as Abhishek also mentioned, so we have those policies, law and all. Can we have some bright minds to do hackathon and crack some of those internally, right? In a safe environment, of course. When we do this part, become interesting and all, at least we can come to let to see our mirror, right? And asking those questions to the leaders, you know what, is this right or not? Do you even know this happening or not? And doing some kind of a, I would say, attack or a simulation of attack to see whether somebody do this. Click the link or something, right? That will be second part of doing. And third thing, has to invest a lot in AI. I think when we are doing these policies and all, and whatever we have done, is it complying with the policy or not? A manual check, very easy. Manual check, you auditors, somebody who is making money. No, we cannot do manual check all the time, right? Can we have this continuous monitoring with AI to be saying, are we compliant to these 20 policies which we are supposed to be compliant? Policy number 1, policy number 2, policy number 3, point A, B, C, D, all of them regularly being monitored. And that's why we'll get more understanding that yes, the system is monitoring us rather than waiting for us to get attacked and then realize, oops, we made a mistake, right? So I think that's where the system, comprehensive solution would be to understand the policies, test it or do something internally and keep a monitoring part. Unless we do monitoring, I think it's hard to get a good night's sleep, I would say, especially for CISOs.
Absolutely, Mukesh. I think you touched it well, you know. I always keep asking, you know, when I meet my CISO friends, saying that, how many hours have you slept last night, you know? Did you have? And I think the conversation during Diwali was, कुछ incident हुआ था क्या? बोलता नहीं, अच्छा, we had a good time, you know. Not having an incident is like
Unless someone in CrowdStrike goes crazy, right? On a Friday evening.
On a Friday evening, I agree. And then the weekend just goes for a toss, huh? Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, great. I think Mukesh and Abhishek covered, you know, what has to be done. But I think Harshad, the biggest challenge is getting it done, right? And for getting it done, there is a need of a budget. There is need of resources, right? How does one put up their case, especially in the manufacturing setup? You know, that these are the 5 things that I need in terms of budgets, in terms of resources, in terms of commitment from the business teams for getting some of these, technologies implemented and also securing those technologies. So how do you approach that to your management? Or how can one approach that to the management? Let's not be specific, you know.
Yeah, it's a very long question and answer is always long, but I'll try to make it very small.
Right.
So you're talking about business case, how you typically write business case, right? Nowadays it's pretty easy. I mean, we use ChatGPT, frankly speaking, to write a business case, but
So to
fact is...
implement AI, you use a ChatGPT and build up a business case.
Yeah,
I think
but
that's a good one, huh?
Yeah, the fact is basically what we need to do is basically we need to look at the business. Unless we understand business very well, there is no point we can provide a solution.
Absolutely.
Like for example, if I want to put a technology in place, maybe a DLP technology in place, unless I understand the entire data flow analysis, what sort of a data is basically getting churned, what sort of a data is basically accessed by users, and what sort of exceptions are required, it will not be giving justice to the business case. So in my opinion, cost is primary. Second is the business case. Third is always this kind of support we are going to get. Of course, skill is a challenge, so naturally. And the fourth and most important thing in my opinion is basically how much automation that tool can bring so that our dependency on people can be reduced. These are quick
Which means
notes.
taking some quick wins to the management and then asking for more so that management has enough confidence on you that you have the capability to implement it. And then once you build that confidence, budgets, resources, commitments from business teams, everything will flow in. I think on that note, I would, as it is, it's time up, and on that note, I would like to end this conversation. I think I've had a fantastic panel of Harshad, Mukesh, and Abhishek, each one diverse in their own industry, each one facing different challenges to solve the same problem, right? And I think their views were really appreciated. I think I learned a lot, you know, moderating this session. So thank you so much, gentlemen, and have a great day, guys. Thank you.
Session so well, and thank you to our panelists for the beautiful insights, and I would like Prianshu to felicitate our panelist.
Sure.